All right. So here's the real question starting off. What do you guys think catfish?
Catfish. I like to
Yeah,
that largely depends on whether or not it's fried.
This is an unfried catfish. This is not an edible catfish.
Dude, I don't think
Well, then the only other thing you have to ask is how big. Either you got a record, breaking catfish, or you just got some boring old unfried catfish. And my question then is, why should I care?
So how about a 410-pound catfish? Does that perk your interest at all, Chase?
Dude, you told me about this. I'm convinced that that's bunk. Are you sure this is not a scam website? I remember you showing
No.
this.
So check this out. So check this out, guys. Yeah, absolutely.
400 pounds? Do you know what? That thing's steel reinforced rods to pull that out of the water.
Well, it's almost as big as Chase, so I don't really see what the problem is. It's very possible that the catfish can be that size.
Oh, as big as Chase? Yeah.
So here's the deal. Alex, I'm not interested in your opinion on this one. This is for Chase and Connor. This is for our guests on Reborn Radio today. Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing, guys. I came across this article the other day, and it's one of those articles that really catches your eye. You'll be scrolling through like Drudge Report or rolling down your Facebook feed or something, and you come across. I always love the ones like this one. This is the headline I saw: "Remains of Nazi officer discovered inside 100-year-old giant catfish." And sometimes there are headlines that are just weird enough to catch my attention like that. And so it's one of those moments where I was like, "Yeah, I gotta check that out." So yeah, let me share this link with you guys real quick. There is the 410-pound catfish that was caught in Poland that they discovered remains. Like, look at the insignia that was found in the fish's belly turned out to be a German SS hat. Now here's what's really sad. Here's what's really sad. This looks totally legit to me. And that picture, by the way, is real. That's a real picture. That is an actual fish that was caught.
I know what this is.
And so, what was it? Was Alex? You and I were playing Civilization the other night, and you were looking for some. You were looking for some articles to post on our brand new website, and I said, "Oh, I got a good one for you, man." I said, "I got an article about remains of a Nazi officer discovered in a 100-year-old giant catfish," and your response was, and I quote, "Yeah, dude, send that to me."
Well, it took me about 30 seconds. I actually looked at the article and I was like, wait a second, there's no flipping way. Like, do you see the size of this thing? It would take like a small, I don't think it would take like a small like motorboat to actually catch and reel in this fish. Like, you'd have to use spears.
And here's what's sad.
Harpoons.
Right.
Here's what's really sad. Alex discovered in about 3 seconds the truth of the matter, and this is a satire website that I had completely bought off. Like, for instance, just some of the other articles that this website puts out would be, and I quote, "Japanese whaling crew eaten alive by killer whales, 16 dead." German scientists prove there is life after death. Yoko Ono, quote, "I had an affair with Hillary Clinton in the 70s.
Well, that does explain why the remains of Nazi officer discovered inside 100-year-old giant catfish sounded so ominously like Not the Onion to me. It turns out it came from a competitor of the Onion, so yeah, that does explain a bit. It also explains, why exactly when you said 100-pound catfish, or no, 100-year-old 410-pound catfish, I instantly thought, wait, what? Andrew caught a catfish, but he's from Kansas. Where in the world is there catfish in Kansas?
Did you know that it's illegal to hunt whales in the state of Oklahoma? Think about that for a second. Think really hard about that.
What?
I kid you not. That's an actual law.
Why?
Don't ask. Go Google it. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning into Reborn Radio. We really appreciate.
I've heard worse.
You know what, Chase? Shut up. Andrew.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm here, man. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Reborn Radio. We have some great topical discussion for us today, and we have a couple of guests on here. It's one thing that we would like to do more of, is bring on some guests and for a little bit more of a lively discussion. Basically, we've noticed that we get higher ratings when we bring other people aside from Alex and myself. So we thought maybe there's something to that. I don't know, but
Well, yeah, it's kind of obvious to the rest of us.
Now?
YouTube hits.
What did I get rated?
You don't want to know.
-2 hits.
It was bad.
It was bad. But here with us today, we have some longtime friends of the Reborn Radio crowd. We have Chase McDugle, and who's been a longtime friend, was a college buddy of Alex and myself. And we also have Connor Gaines with us, who is my brother-in-law. So I am going to actually kick it on over to Chase, because Chase is going to be he came to us and said, "Hey, I'd love to have a conversation about this." And my first immediate reaction was, "Wow, that's an area that is I think we often consider as Christians." The topic, by the way, is the implications of technology in the life of the believer. It's something that we come across on a daily basis, but at least for myself, not something that I really stopped to think about for long periods of time, or actually think about the implications that technology has in my life. I'm so used to it. I'm so adapted to technology always being there in various forms that I don't really give it much consideration.
And that's kind of like the $1 million question right there. The $1 million question is, you know,
do I get $1 million?
No. If I had $1 million, I would keep it.
your questions are worthless, Chase. You can keep your $1 million question.
Oh yeah, I will. As soon as I get that $1 million. But yeah, that's the real question is we use it every day and we don't really think about it, and that's from the perspective of a Christian worldview, not thinking about something is kind of a terrible idea.
Right.
But yeah, technology, it's everywhere, and you know, we're constantly told how the newest and latest and greatest technology is going to do the newest and latest and greatest things, and you know, that's generally what you hear, what you get across. Certainly what the marketers would like us to believe. But
can I interject just to be clear? So when we say technology, just to get definitions up front, I mean, I don't know if you were getting to that, but I'm assuming when we're talking about being constantly connected to technology, we're talking about the web. We're talking about the internet and the fact.
I would go with the term just modern day digital technology. Because that's really the dividing line is technology. If you want to go with a dictionary definition or something like that, technology encompasses pretty much everything right down to the chair and indoor plumbing.
Right.
And and trust me, there's not a whole lot to say about indoor plumbing other than thank God it exists. Let's be real here. And the chair is pretty much perfected. I'm not really sure what you could say one way or another about it.
There's a lot of improvements that could be made to the quote unquote the chair.
And they also cost money, unfortunately.
That's the downside. That's the improvement that we did.
But no, what the general common parlance when we say technology is we're not referring to a chair or pipes, you know, for water or such. That's what is commonly termed as mythical technology. Technology has been so perfected and so has existed in our lives for so long that it's there, and we don't even think of it as technology anymore. By technology, most people think the smartphone in their pocket, the computer in front of them on the desk, and of course, the internet. That pretty much connects all of that together. So yeah, the modern day digital technology, digital devices.
Here you go.
That's generally what we're talking about right now.
Okay.
Because the advent of digital technology and the interconnectedness of the web is what really has truly actually changed life, if you will. You know, go back 20 years. That's within, I believe, all of our lifespans.
Almost.
But go back mere 20 years, and I say mere because somebody listening in probably is going 20. That's, you know, a short period of time. I'm sure there's somebody, but yeah, a mere 20 years, and I guess probably all of us lived in families that didn't even have one of those ancient desktops, much less internet or anything else.
Yeah.
I would like to throw in there real quick that my dad, 20 years ago, he had a Hewlett Packard desktop that I can't remember what like the model name was, but I remember it had a 32 meg hard drive.
And you were like,
man.
whoa.
Right. It's like if we
that was my dad's
it,
original thought. My dad's original thought when like he was being sold the computer was like, "Oh my gosh, 32 megs! I'll never use up all that space."
So yeah, that's
and now it's like 2 JPEGs.
Right. just two, mind you. But yeah, that's just a general idea. So the very first question is, yeah, we have to think about it. So how should we think about it? And there's two general lines of thought, right? The first line of thought is, the first line of thought that pretty much everyone goes with is technology is awesome. It is improving our lives. Therefore, just use it. And that's all there is to it.
Right.
More technology is better, period. End of thought. And if you will really dive down into it, you get into like a more like even an atheistic worldview where man is ascending. Right. Technology is often sold as the means of our ascension.
Also, too, if I could just interject real quick, I think you're really onto something here, Chase. What I find is because we have digital technology, because we have this interconnectedness around the globe, and because we've made so much progression. Even in the last 20 years, we made a lot of progression in the last 40 years, but even in 20 years, the leaps and bounds, what was done in the previous century as a whole, I think there is a sense of superiority almost. Like we look back throughout history, and those guys are a bunch of idiots because we have computers, we have, we've got Minecraft, we have Minesweeper. John, what's John Calvin got on that?
Of technology.
Well, I mean, that goes even beyond like just in the history. It goes on to like the countries around us as well, because like the United States, as well as some of the other like larger countries, are the ones that are kind of heading the whole technology thing.
Right.
But then there's countries out there that are still living without all this technology. They're not hooked up to the internet like everyone else.
Yeah.
Or they are in different ways. Third world countries, interestingly enough, are usually more connected to the internet via cellular technology more than the first world countries that usually are via like a cable connection or such.
Yeah, fun statistic that Ravi Zacharias often mentioned is that the amount of people in India that have cell phones hovers right around 80%. And the amount of people that have toilets working, like we were just talking about, right? People have indoor plumbing in India, 30%.
Well, that tells you what some people's priorities are.
So my priority is very much a working toilet.
Just for the record. But
but Connor has a point though too. Like there is a sense, like I could see where there is a sense in our somewhat American / first world mindset, where we have progressed faster and farther than other areas of the world.
Hashtag free market.
Well, okay. Let's plug capitalism while we're here. But anyway, go ahead, Chase. I'm sorry.
But yeah, that's just general view. The general view around you, you basically ask, is technology good? And people go, yeah.
Right.
And that, of course, leads into very easily leads into this worldview of technology is making us more awesome. And before too long, you've basically made technology into a savior, which in turn means it's become an idol. What was it, Calvin, who said, the human heart is an idol factory? Was it the Calvin?
Yep. That was the Calvin.
The Calvin. So yeah, John Calvin himself. The human heart is an idol factory, and technology is no different in that regards.
Right.
Instead, I'd like to put for most of this thought is coming as I have recently reread a book by Tim Challies called, and I quote, "The Next Story: Life and Faith After the Digital Explosion." Very good book. I recommend reading it. But I was rereading it after having read it once several years ago. And so, yeah, a lot of these new thoughts. And going through it and thinking on my own. So if technology is not our savior, right? If that's the one assumption we're going to make here. If technology is not our savior, and obviously should not be an idol,
right?
What is technology? What should Christians consider technology to be? That's kind of the first question you got to ask before you get on to how should we use it?
Right.
And
well, go ahead.
Yeah, for all its amazing qualities, I think that the best way to consider technology in relation to our lives and you know, God and sin and etc. is technology is not a savior, but it is in a way a bulwark against the what would you call the consequences of a fallen nature. Technology allows us to reach beyond the limitations that we have experienced ever since Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden.
Yeah.
So it's like a crutch, in other words.
It really is.
Well, so basically, in other words, technology, I mean, because we in and of ourselves are the image bearers of God. So we have the image of God bestowed upon us. Therefore, we tend to mimic him in a lot of different ways, rational thought, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the ways I think that specifically is applicable to the point you're making, Chase, is just as God is the ultimate creator, we to some extent are micro creators. We can't create something from nothing.
Or as Tolkien would have put it, sub-creators.
Yeah, sub-creators. Yeah, but we have the ability to create with the stuff that God has given us, with creation as a whole. And so what you're saying is that because as a result of the fall, we utilize technology, and that, you know, not even just modern digital technology. I mean, heck, even the plow in its time, the wheel in its time, were abilities. It gave us certain buffs, abilities, whatever you want to call it, to be able to, as you said, combat the effects of the fall. I think that's a great point.
And modern digital technology has basically taken that sense of a bulwark and just gone nutso with it, because, you know, for all you have to do is go back, what, 100 years? Maybe if you really want to stress the point, go back 200 years. Human life on average has not changed since the beginning of time till about 200 years. The fastest thing on the planet was the horse. Really?
Yeah, right. In terms
I thought it was the cheetah.
Well, the fastest thing in the human world was the horse.
Okay.
But I mean, everything was stuck at the pace of a human horse. To communication, you know, thought was the fastest thought itself could go was the speed of a horse.
Right.
Yeah, and now we have this technology where it's like information travels in an instant, and
right.
It's so instantaneous. Yeah, it's just
crazy.
so instantaneous that we can, you know, literally stare each other in the face from opposite world in real time. That's what we call video calling.
Yeah.
Then we discovered it's really awkward to stare each other in the face when you want to call someone, and quickly reverted back to audio only. But the point being, I mean, yeah, just what was it? A few weeks ago, I was on a video call with my sister and my adorable little 2-year-old redheaded niece, and just to mention the real reason why I was on the video call, and
yeah, that was my sister. I wanted to see my niece.
Exactly, it was amazing because here I am in the state of Kentucky. And that's not where I originally come from. My family originally comes from East Texas. That's a 17-hour drive, by the way, people.
I remember
and
that.
yet here I am communicating instantaneously in real time with my niece. You know, just talking to her. And of course, that was a very interesting conversation, as you can imagine. Mostly, well, what does that do? What does that toy do? But yeah, you go back, what, 50 years? And such a thing was pretty much literally the stuff of science fiction. I have read a few science fiction novels from like the 50s. Yeah. And that's how they would use to illustrate this is the future, is that two people, you know, one person in space and one person on Earth would be video calling each other. You know, that's how you knew it was the future.
Yeah.
Future.
Things like the smartwatch too. That was just a fantasy.
Yeah,
and now it's our reality.
Yeah, Dick Tracy, you know, the comic spy, used to communicate with his fellow spies via his watch, and now I'm literally wearing one right now.
Oh, you actually have a smartwatch?
Not a cheap one. That. It's LG. I don't have a high quality one. I have a $40.
But or think about think about the pad.
Nah, bro, I'm a seminary student. I don't got cash.
Right. But think about the pad from Star Trek. They'd be carrying around. And, that was a vision of the future from the 80s. And what year was Star Trek supposedly set in?
Gosh. It was like 2100 something. It's like 100 years from now, in theory.
At least, yeah.
I'm sure.
Unfortunately, I'm a Star Wars fan, so I'm not that knowledgeable. Yeah. But yeah, think about Star Trek, and someone would bring up an important message for Picard up on this pad, and that was science fiction. And nowadays, well, now we have these things called iPads and Google Nexus tablets, and you just on and so forth.
Right. So our question is this: what I mean, obviously we're saturated in information. We're saturated in unbelievable amounts of information, and comfort, I think, also comes with technology.
Right.
You see, how should Christians, I mean, obviously we should think about this in some terms of a bulwark against our fallen nature.
Yeah, the first thought is obviously to not be so hyped about its good qualities, right? Let's not hype ourselves into believing that technology is going to save us from this or save us from that, as much as it will bring great improvements. The second thing I think the important to keep in mind is that digital technology has obviously changed things in completely different ways, and we should be mindful of those changes. Because as a famous author whose name escapes me at the moment, he put out a book whose title was "The Medium is the Message," and his point was that the very means of communication we use influence the way we think, and so all this digital technology, is you start off with. Let me go back in time to, you start off with Gutenberg and the book, and people were book people. We thought about things in the manner of books. You would describe a person as an open book, and that was the way it was for quite a number of years. Then you get radio and TV, and so all of a sudden there's a shift toward thinking in terms of images. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Is what we decided, and
more of a visual experience.
Right, and now we've get into digital technology, which has kind of encapsulated both of them. It's assumed them into itself, and digital technology, based on it, is on computers, because that's what we're really talking about is computers.
Yeah.
Computers are just like information machines. They're literally just giant information machines. So now we have a focus on raw information, and that's what we value as a society is raw information.
Yeah, and one other thing that I was kind of thinking about this, actually reading through Genesis 1 and 2 a little bit, and the whole, and Andrew probably did this, the creation mandate, so-called, or the creation blessing, the idea that man is made to go out and subdue the earth. We were created for the purpose of, the creation was created for the purpose of serving man. Man was created for the purpose of serving God, and creation subsequently to serve God as well. But I think this is an extension of that, and I think this is another point at which we are using instruments. We are bending creation to our will. We are bending the atoms and the energy that exists in creation in such a way that we can transport data instantaneously, bending it to our will to serve us. So where I really want to go with this is, how do we, as Christians, serve God by using the creation in this particular aspect of creation, and B, what are the pitfalls that we need to be aware of in serving God while using this? Is there something that this is going to do that is not serving God in our daily lives? But that being said, we're actually going to wrap this one up. We will continue this podcast later. We will definitely do another take and continue this discussion. We got some great thoughts going here. We want to really encapsulate them, other than just going over some definitions. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. Andrew, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to continue the discussion next week. I think we'll have a lot of good information to share. I especially look forward to answering those specific questions that you lay out, because I do feel, technology in and of itself as a created thing is to some extent amoral, and therefore it largely has to do with how we apply it. So I look forward to discussing that with our brothers next week. But thanks everybody for tuning in to Reborn Radio. Make sure to check out our new website, www.rebornhumanity.com. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of technology, make sure to hit us up on social media at Reborn Narwhal on Twitter and Facebook, and www.rebornhumanity.com. And we will look forward to seeing you guys next week. God bless.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.